8:25, welcome back. Tuesday morning here on the show, a chance to talk about rugby and the now reversed decision to cancel high school rugby in Nova Scotia. Joining us, sports reporter and former rugby coach, mind you, Patrick Johnston, welcome.
That's me.
Jordan Abney, Exec Director of BC School Sports. And Jordan, can you set us up with some context? This created a lot of buzz about rugby and sports communities across this country. What happened in Nova Scotia that led to it being canceled in the high school circuit and then that decision being reversed?
Yeah, I think really what they looked at is some injury data that they had received from their insurance program, and I think from my understanding, obviously not being in the room, but they looked at it and said, you know, there's a pretty high incidence of injury that they felt was a problem, and I think their board of directors decided to remove that sport from the school sport program, and that certainly caused some consternation in the rugby community across the country.
The province's education minister steps in, a conversation happens, the decision gets reversed, but it puts rugby in the spotlight. And Patrick, as a coach and now a sports writer with Post Media, when you look at rugby, how do we know players are rugby ready, that there is a balance of safety with the activity?
It's one of those ones, yeah, it's a sport that obviously has risk with it. It's like any kind of contact sport you're dealing with. And the key is that the coaches are trained, I think, and that's become an important sort of factor in the game. And coach training is more sort of thorough than ever, and looking at concussions and things like that. Yeah, and that's the thing. You have to understand there's going to be a risk of injury in any sport. And to me, that was what the real issue in Nova Scotia was. It was such a rash decision. It wasn't like they were looking to say, can we make this game safer? Is this a true comparison with the other sports? You know, you look at a sport like hockey or football, which obviously have risks as well, and some of those numbers you're going, yeah, I think there's more concussions happening in hockey and football than are being reported, for instance.
And when you talk about injuries being reported, is this a good thing that people are being honest, they're being vocal, so it can make the game safer, whether it is rugby or any sport altogether? Jordan?
Yeah, I think that's one of the concerns that people had, was by using that data specifically, it's going to lead to a further reduction in people actually properly reporting injuries and in efforts to make the game safer, whether it be rugby or any other sport. And so, you know, just relying on that data specifically has, you know, other effects that are also potentially harmful to safety in sports.
Well, the important thing is, and you know, the safety is being addressed, Patrick, as you're talking about, but the participation on both sides, and this has become a popular sport on the female side here in Canada. Jordan?
Yeah, it's a huge sport, both male and female. We've got over 4,500 students who participate in schools alone across BC. Over 100 schools have programs. And yeah, it certainly provides an opportunity for both male and female students to participate in a very active and physical game.
And
I was going to say, one of the long-standing things, you know, going back to my time as a coach, was that you'd have kids who, you know, because it's such a easy sport to enter into in terms of cost, and, you know, need a pair of cleats and a coach, you know, and a field, and we would see kids that wouldn't get access to, you know, another kind of, you know, aggressive sport where they got to get out, you know, a part of themselves that perhaps they didn't normally get involved with. And that, to me, was one of the great things. And yeah, the women's game, it's huge. And, you know, the fact that the women were in the Rio Olympics and were so successful, I know that's been a huge factor for them. And, you know, my understanding of Nova Scotia was this is the only contact sport for girls. And so, you know, the decision was so rash, and as a result, there were a lot of impacts. It's good to see that, you know, there was pushback from the community out there.
And they care about it. And rugby sevens on the high school circuit, that's going to be a reality in the next year?
Yeah, so we've traditionally played 15s within the school system, and now our AGM was a couple weeks ago, and the membership has voted to bring sevens in next year as a trial sport, with the intention that in 2021 it would become a full-fledged school sport for boys and girls.
That is awesome to hear. This sport is growing, that safety is becoming a focus. Good website, Jordan, that people can check out for sports on the high school circuit?
Yeah, our website's bcschoolsports.ca.
We'll spread the good word. Appreciate you both coming by.
Thanks so much.
We'll take a break. More